Whoops! I apparently let the music run out, and let me just scooch Cameron back into the shot a little bit better. There we go. Just a hair. There we go. All right, and good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I had a feeling we were gonna come back to.
Oh yeah. We were certain we were going to come back to this. So we talked about this a little bit last week. Maybe the week before.
Maybe you did. I've been working so much and having to miss days.
Well, it was on a Firearms Friday. We talked about it.
We talked about. Okay. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Good
Friday.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We're going to talk about some guns.
Guns.
I don't know that we talked about this specific angle of it, but we did talk about how Kyle Rittenhouse still has a whole lot to go through, and how he's been scammed out of. What you would have bet it's at least 7 figures that have gone into and right back out of that kid at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if we were up to 8 figures now. There's been money just pouring into him from concerned citizens who are quite rightly, their hearts are going out to this poor kid who was obviously and clearly attacked by confirmed violent criminals, awful human beings who were legitimately out and about with the intent of doing wrong things, and then took it a step further by attacking a young man who, thank God, was able to defend himself. And the fallout from that, Ask a Democrat who's all for gun control and thinks that Kyle Rittenhouse is a monster who Kyle Rittenhouse shot. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you 3 black men. It was all a race issue. Kyle's a terrible white supremacist who went to a BLM protest and murdered a bunch of protesters. And that's the narrative that they spun. And a big chunk of those people that hate Kyle and think that he's a monster, they also believe, because they don't bother to go anywhere any further than the inflammatory headline, they believe that Kyle murdered, unprovoked, 3 black men, when in fact he was assaulted by 3 armed white leftists. Right? And part of the fallout has been there are several large left-wing political organizations that are actively funding smaller individual lawsuits against Kyle since he won the trial, and there never should have been a trial. It was such a clear-cut case of self-defense. The idea that he was tried for murder is offensive to the Constitution. It's offensive to everything that makes us Americans.
Well, I'd like to personally thank Kyle for going through that, because it gave us some meme templates that are just going to last forever.
Yeah, I mean, forever hail the Kenosha Kid and the Kenosha hat trick.
Right, and of course, like when Little Binger pointed the gun at the jury, I don't know what you thought you were trying to do, but you did not accomplish it, sir.
Little Binger made one of the best arguments I've ever seen for gun control. He made it very, very clear that the Democrats are correct. Democrats should not have guns. They just can't be trusted with them, largely because they still vote Democrat because they are not adequately emotionally mature to make intelligent, rational decisions. So let's look at this story. We got a couple of little jokes in there and a little chuckle, but honestly, any humor we're able to derive from this story that we're about to look at will be dark. And not that kind of dark. Remember, like I said, all of Kyle's attackers were white. Gage Grosskreutz sociopath, criminal, child abuser, sues Kyle Rittenhouse for shooting him. It's like, listen, son, you brought a Glock to a rifle fight. You chose what happened to you. So Grosskreutz, the man injured by Kyle Rittenhouse after he was shot during the Kenosha riots of 2020, has filed a lawsuit against Rittenhouse and local police and officials. Little clarification here. The man who was injured by Kyle Rittenhouse after he was shot during the Kenosha riots. Okay, so he wasn't injured after he was shot. He was injured when he was shot. At that exact moment, he was shot in the arm that was holding the pistol that he was pointing at Kyle Rittenhouse while screaming, "I'm going to kill you." There is no more clear-cut circumstance of self-defense. He had opportunity, means, ability, and what's the last one? What's the imminence? The threat was he had the capacity to do the harm, expressed the intent to cause the harm, and expressed clearly that his intent was to cause the harm imminently. Those are the major factors in a self-defense claim. So he's suing Kyle. So according to Fox News, Grosskreutz is seeking economic losses, damages for emotional distress, humiliation, loss of enjoyment of life, and other pain and suffering on all claims, and punitive damages. Okay. Grosskreutz is claiming that he was traumatized, that he suffered emotional distress and humiliation.
I don't know, man. Needing help opening ketchup bottles for the rest of your life is probably going to cause emotional distress.
That's fair. Emotional distress, humiliation, loss of enjoyment of life. I
hope for his sake he's left-handed.
These are things that are associated with shame. Not something a confirmed child molester gets to adhere to.
Confirmed child? No, that was God, I'm blanking on his name, but that was the bald guy. Shoot me inward, shoot me inward. That was the guy with the sex. Yeah, okay. Grosskreutz wasn't the sex offender. He was a felon. Okay, and I understand how.
Yeah, and that is another part of this. Another part of this math is he was unlawfully armed. Now, without going down the rabbit hole of whether or not the law should be allowed to restrict the possession of firearms by even felons, just the fact of the matter is that at that moment in this world, the law said that Grosskreutz was wrong in every way he could be before he expressed his intent to murder Kyle Rittenhouse with the firearm he was illegally holding.
Right. And I just yes. Yeah, so okay. I've thought about this quite a bit since it first popped up, because I'm sure you know that Kyle Rittenhouse was added to a previously existing lawsuit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it takes a little mental gymnastics to get there, and I need for you and for everybody to understand, I don't actually have a lot of sympathy for Gigi. That's what I'm going to call Gigi. Okay. Don't actually have a lot of sympathy for him because, you decided that you would participate in a riot. However, suing the city and the local officials and the police, that's actually, and stick with me here, that's actually not terribly unreasonable, because who allowed these riots to happen?
In that case, I think explicitly the mayor and governor.
So local police and officials, would that be the mayor and governor?
In fact, I'll take that a step further and remind you that part of the story of what happened that night is Kyle was attacked by people throwing flaming dumpsters at him.
Right.
Somebody else fired a shot, and that was when Kyle turned around and shot the first attacker, who was charging him and screaming, shoot me, inward, inward. And then after Kyle managed to fight his way through an armed crowd of people with bludgeons and firearms bent on his death, and he managed to fight his way through with excellent marksmanship and trigger discipline, and actually running intentionally to the police. He ran up to a police officer and said, help, I've been attacked. I've just shot 3 people. And the cop said,
you're cute, kid. Go home.
We don't have time for you. Go home. And the boy went home, went to bed, and went the next morning to turn himself in, which was a mistake. But
I mean, was it a mistake?
Yes.
Well, in his subsequent murder trial, that's got to be one of those things that the jury looked at. Like, he immediately went to the cops and said, help, this happened. And the cops told him to piss off. And so he came back the next day and said, no, for real, I had to shoot 3 people in self-defense. Thought you ought to know. Like, that actually probably helped him a lot in his murder trial.
what he should have done was call the lawyer first and then go to the cops.
Well,
That was the mistake.
okay, but as some of us know,
this is a long rabbit hole to go down. So
look, as some of us know, especially those of us who have not been in trouble with the law with a high degree of frequency, calling a lawyer first is just not the thing that most people would do. Most people that are inherently good people are going to say, I don't believe I did anything wrong, or, hey, look, I just made a mistake. That's
correct.
That's what most non-criminal people are going to do. They don't understand that even saying I didn't do anything wrong, depending on how they say it, can be an implication of guilt. So yes, but you're right. That's a whole separate rabbit hole that. But what I was getting at is Gigi actually has a bit of a point in that, yes, don't talk to the police.
yeah, I'm not going to share. I'm not going to show it right now. I'm just going to drop this link in the chat for everybody. Y'all do yourselves a favor and go watch this video on YouTube. It's about 45 minutes long. It is worth your watch. It's a lawyer explaining why you don't talk to the police, and how the thing to remember, the cops will tell you, anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. What they leave out is absolutely nothing that you can say to a police officer can be used in your defense in a court of law. It can only be to your detriment.
That's right. You could say 100 things to a cop. One of them can make you sound guilty.
None of them can make you.
Well, the other, and it's
None of them can serve as exculpatory evidence in the trial.
yeah, and the other 99 things they're allowed to just throw out. But look, the point that I was getting to before, things got dragged off there was Gigi. I sincerely think actually has a bit of a point, because who's culpable for all that damage? Well, obviously the rioters are culpable, clearly.
Yeah, I mean,
but
Gigi has a very serviceable cause of action against BLM, for example, and the Democrat National Committee.
Yes. Look, but the face of the lawsuit itself, there is, like, if I own a bar, okay, and this bar is known to have fights and violence and whatever, and then I decline to hire security, and then there's another fight, and a guy gets stabbed in the fight, that guy can go back and sue the bar, sue me as the bar owner, because, well, I knew that people like to come to my bar and get in fights, And I did not do anything to increase security at the bar, so I can be held liable in a civil sense for all sorts of damages to that customer, because there's an expectation of, you know, if I go to Red Lobster, and I don't just expect to be able to get lobster, I expect to not get clubbed over the head while I'm at Red Lobster. And while I don't necessarily agree with the way tort law in this country works, okay, don't take that meaning either. However, when I look at the totality of it, Gigi actually has a case against the city, because the city said, hey, you know what? We're just gonna open the doors and let people in the Capitol.
Well, it's like this.
You missed my line. We're just going to open the doors and let people in the Capitol. See, it was good.
Right. Sorry. And you're right, it was. But the thing that you're describing, it's like this. Say you go to the mall, right? Big signs all over the place that say, gun-free zone, right? And then a mass shooter comes in, and there are no armed citizens to respond to the mass shooter, so you have to wait for the police to arrive 14 minutes later. And now the mass shooter, who we know can kill between 2 and 5 people in the first 10 seconds, has had 14 minutes of 10-second intervals. Do that math in your head real quick. Good luck. The question I put to you is, having placed up the sign, which is not enforced by law, supported by any law other than the private disposition of private property, where you can dispose of your private property how you like. If you want to make your private property a gun-free zone and enforce that by ejecting people based on their non-compliance with your personal requests, that's your right. That you're perfectly free to do that. And at that exact moment, when you place that sign up, it is now the security of people on that property has now become your sole responsibility. And every single person, not only that is killed by that mass shooter, but that is put in harm's way because of your personal decision, should have an almost automatically guaranteed legal cause of civil action against your responsibility for their security.
I don't even know that. I mean, yes, okay, but gun-free zones are a totally separate thing. I just mean specifically here with Gigi and looking at the entire situation. It's he's actually got a case. I don't think he should have a case, but I think he's actually got, not against Kyle. Obviously not against Kyle.
That's for Robbie Rogers, who I haven't seen watching the show with us in a hot minute. We need signs that say gun congestion zone. I agree. And where was it? Oh, Brian. Brian said the sign underneath says enter at your own risk. If that were the case, then the civil suit claim would be a little different, but go check it out. I guarantee you the vast majority of gun-free zone signs do not say enter at your own risk. They don't say that on them. In fact, maybe what the law needs is that those signs be required to say enter at your own risk.
Well, and the problem with a gun-free zone sign is not just the fact that it's a gun-free zone, it's the implication behind it. Somebody that doesn't understand certain basic facts about the world around them think, oh, a gun-free zone. Oh, I'm safe. I can let my guard down.
Right.
So that's it. Anyhow, that's why these mass shooters, no shirt, no shoes, no guns, no service. That'd be a great coffee shop. Brother, like, hey, if you flash your CCW when you buy your coffee, you get 10% off.
Oh yeah, brother, I guarantee you, a burger stand. I would keep a burger stand in business if I saw a sign that said like free coffee for open carry or free coffee with CCW or something like that. I see George Kelichek just joined us, says joining from Fort Bragg. Say hello to the 101st for me, brother, and let me know when the engineers are coming, because boy, do we have work to do. So I had not intended or expected for us to talk about that particular article for that long. We got to get a DGU in. You want to read the first one?
Sure.
So.
Wow.
Yay!
And it's from Chicago. I'm cycling through Linkin Park lyrics in my
Somebody
head.
stole my baby brother's freaking catalytic converter in Texas like a week or two ago. You talk about a dick move. He just got back from Poland. He just got back from being deployed.
Welcome home.
Welcome home, soldier. Fuck you.
Right. No, I was cycling through Linkin Park lyrics in my head to see if anything, what it meant to me will eventually be a memory. Yeah. So, a Linkin Park man fired shots at a catalytic converter theft crew that pointed a gun at him overnight, according to a Chicago police report. No injuries were reported. I got a
Glock and a Sawzall. Let's do this.
The 73-year-old man saw two thieves trying to steal his catalytic converter in the 2000 block of North Larrabee around 3:40 a.m. He confronted the thieves, and one of them brandished a firearm, prompting the victim to open fire, a police spokesperson said. Both thieves escaped in a dark SUV, which struck a parked car as they fled the scene, according to police. The incident occurred near the corner...
Ooh, look, they dropped legendary loot.
The incident occurred near the corner of Armitage and Larrabee. Neighbors who called 911 said they heard yellowed, followed by heard yelling. Follow. See, you see what I did there?
Get back here, you cowards! You yellow sons of bitches!
Police said the victim is licensed to own firearms. Another round of catalytic converter thefts was reported in the area just after 5 a.m. One incident was reported on the 2200 block of North Cleveland, just a couple of blocks from where the shots were fired earlier. Witnesses said the thieves on Cleveland fled in a white Dodge Durango.
Doesn't sound like they fled so much as just moved on. Like, well, this one didn't work out. Let's try the next one.
So you just happen to be up at 3:30 in the morning. You hear some noise outside, and you're like, huh, that's weird. Allow me to investigate. You step outside. There's a literal ring of thieves. One of them brandishes a gun at you, which ends up being a mistake.
Yep. In Chicago. So these poor sons of bitches found the one frickin' Vietnam vet that has a carry license in the People's Socialist Republic of Chicago.
So, look, no injuries. There were shots fired. So this kind of moves into a gray area. But we talked before about how often just the presence of a gun is enough to deter crime. I mean, you lock your door. If somebody wants to bring a crowbar and smash your door in, even though you locked it, they can. But you're forcing them to bring a crowbar and smash your door in, right? Whereas if your door is unlocked, they can... There are thieves, okay? They will pick a neighborhood, okay? And they'll run through the neighborhood as fast as they can. All they do is run up to your door and try and open it. And if your door doesn't open, they keep going. They keep going. They keep going.
We had a spate of them through Honey Creek. And,
exactly.
And they got a cart of cigarettes out of my truck on Christmas Eve. They just go through and they check door handles. They don't look behind anything under. They pop open the door. They look inside. They grab whatever's valuable and they're gone in a second. I mean, they're at your vehicle or your front door for 30 seconds.
Exactly. And it's the same thing here. So when you have a firearm for defensive use, it's the equivalent of locking your door. Just having it, just knowing that you're armed is enough for most bad guys. Remember we watched that one video it was probably like 6 weeks ago, this guy was going to get carjacked, and he just happened to see the guys walking up behind him.
Yes.
And he literally, with seconds to spare, managed to get into his car and draw his own firearm. Those guys were going to carjack that kid because they didn't think that kid was armed.
Right.
If they knew that kid was armed, no, negative. Moving on.
Well, Larry Correa said, criminals are criminals because they don't want to work. If you're unarmed, you look like food. Predators look for food. Once you draw a pistol, you look like work. Hard work.
But yeah, it's but to quote the old saw, God created man, Sam Colt made him equal. Yep.
All right. Well, that's all we've got time for this morning. So, safety brief. What you got going on this weekend, Cameron? Anything interesting?
No.
Is there anything, we don't have any special event stuff going on this weekend?
Cocaine Bear opens today.
Say again?
Cocaine Bear opens today.
Oh, Cocaine Bear. We might have to, you know what? We might have to blow up the big screen for that one.
Nope. Nope. Theaters only. No streaming yet.
Oh, well, I'm not going to the theater anytime soon. That's just money I don't want to spend. But
well, you have a family to bring. I am just a me.
yeah, that's true.
So I might just go see Cocaine Bear in the theaters because it's just a me. And the movie's called
Cocaine Bear. I cannot wait for summer 2024 because Cocaine Bear is going to do so well that in summer 2024 we're going to see Meth Gator, and then in 2025 it's going to be Cocaine Bear versus Meth Gator. Oh, it's going to be right up there with Sharktopus versus Godzilla or what? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it won't be high art. But I'm gonna get exactly what I'm paying.
Exactly.
Like
I love high art films, I really do. But let me tell you something. When I walked out of Snakes on a Plane, I was tempted to give them more money.
Right. Right. You know, and it's look. It's sort of like getting a chili cheese dog with extra onions from a guy on a corner selling hot dogs out of one of those, like... You're getting exactly what you're paying for.
And I know what I'm asking for. And as long as I get that, I'm happy with it. So...
And then Rob Hovis says, cocaine beer? I'm in. DM me. Woo!
Have you seen the commercials for Liquid Death, the canned water?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't have time on the show today. Google Liquid Death. Just do yourselves a favor. That said, this was Firearms Friday. We've talked about some DGUs. Y'all are going into the weekend. You're bound to get yourself in trouble. And if you're not bound to risk a little trouble, then you're doing something wrong. Get out, have a little fun. But when you do it, gird thyself against the ravages of the psychotic people that are out there. Arm yourself and be smart about it. If you are not already a habitual concealed carrier, get educated. Get educated on the firearm. Get educated on the tactics of carrying, on the culture, on the etiquette of carrying. Take your time, but don't take too much time. Learn. YouTube is a great resource if you have careful discernment. You can't bank on everything, but study up, get smart, get training. Hands-on training with a professional beats everything. And then gird yourselves and make a habit of carrying always. I love you guys. Be safe, and we will see you on Monday.